Why do we call a number 9 a number 9 instead of a striker or whatever? And I'm going to get you there, okay? This was the first kind of recognized formation. We're talking about 1800s, okay? Players or coaches used to draw their teams from the top down. I'm going to show you why I don't like that so much, but this is how they drew them, okay? 1 goalkeeper, 2 defenders, 3 midfielders, 5 forwards. Okay, there were a couple times that teams had some things before that, but this is the really kind of the first recognized formation. Okay, what's interesting about it? And I need someone to answer without starting much side conversations. What's interesting about that formation? What?
Now we usually don't play with 5 forwards.
Yeah, we don't usually play with 5 forwards anymore. What else is interesting? What do you notice about the goalkeeper? You got a hand, you're a goalkeeper. What do you notice about the keeper? Okay, sometimes, yeah, what sometimes people do is they'll call this a 2-3-5. Some people call it a 1-2-3-5. And a lot of people think it's very, very serious to make sure you include a goalkeeper so we don't forget we have them, right? But the goalkeeper's wearing the same color, okay? Oof, I almost took out this table here. So someone's at my front door. Okay, so it wasn't until the 1870s that a goalkeeper was actually recognized as a different position. You got to remember, this was a game that was played by hundreds of people over entire towns. My job was to get the ball from one side of Westerville to the other side of Westerville, and the entire town would play it. And you would tackle people, and you could take the ball however you wanted. You could run with it, you could punt it, you could throw it, you could do whatever you wanted. Okay? So positions and formations weren't even really a thing until, quite some time after this game began. It wasn't until 1909 that goalkeepers started to wear a different color. What else do you notice? We don't have jersey numbers yet, right? So it was 1939 that jersey numbering became a thing. And it was the English FA, the Football Association, that said, we're going to make numbers mandatory. And they decided we're going to do it just like this. And the sad thing is by the time 1939 rolled around, a new formation was coming about. So they actually based, thinking there's really only going to be one formation, and they based it being drawn that way. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11. It makes sense. You read from left to right, okay? But it's hard to read, and I'll show you why. And when formations changed, the numbers got moved around a little bit. It was mandatory that you had to wear those numbers. We're talking about a time in the game when there were no substitutions. 11 people showed up and played. Someone got injured, you played with 10, okay? There were no subs. So you had a 2. You were the 2 and you played right back. And your job as a number 2 was to mark the other team's number 11. And your job as a 3 was to mark the other team's number 7. And people got so used to, I play this position, I wear this number, so I mark the other team's that number. It was so strict that Hungary at one point came in to play England, and they were like, we're not going to do that. You can't tell us what numbers we have to wear. And they changed the numbers around and played in different places. And that was confusing enough that Hungary destroyed England that day. It was a very confusing thing when they simply changed their numbers. That's how deep-rooted it was. I like to draw it this way. I like to draw my teams as going upward because I need to see the left player on the left side and the right player on the right side. When you draw it from top to bottom, my right defender's on the left side that I'm looking at. But to do this, it flips the numbers around, right? But this should explain to you why a right defender is a 2, left defender is a 3, and then 4, 5, 6 from right to left, and 7 through 11 up top. Okay? So now that we've flipped it, you have a better understanding. Before 1866, anyone that was ahead of the ball was considered offside. This was a game that was still being played. There were still versions of this game where people were carrying a ball, and there were people saying, I don't think we should be allowed to carry a ball. I think we should only be able to use everything but our hands. Okay? There was also a thing called hacking. This is sometimes when a defender or an opponent comes around you and they kick you in the shins and someone's like, she's hacking, this kid's a hack. Okay? It was when we played when we were younger, the term was used a lot more. But certain players were, that guy's a hack, and that's what they would say. And there were a lot of people that were like, I don't think hacking should be allowed. I don't think you should be allowed to kick people in the shins. But I do think you should be able to carry the ball. And other people were like, I don't think you should be able to carry the ball. And I like kicking people in the shins, right? So one game became rugby. The other game became soccer. And they split off, okay? But if you think about rugby, and if you've ever watched it, it's very much like American football in that in rugby, I can only run the ball forward, right? So you can see at times in American football you can throw a ball forward, obviously, but after that you can't just keep throwing it forward. Everything would have to be lateral or thrown backward. Okay? So anyone ahead of the ball was considered offside. So if I've got Lulu ahead of me and I pass the ball to her, just by the fact that she was ahead of me, she's offside. The other team gets the ball. So that's why you don't need a bunch of defenders. You needed someone to pressure, and you needed someone to cover just in case they got beat by that one person that could dribble. Any pass was played backward to someone else. You could get away with 2 defenders. But what happened was not a lot of people were scoring. And because not a lot of people were scoring, not a lot of games, the games are very low in scoring, they said, let's go ahead and let people pass forward, and they changed the rules. And they said there has to be 3 players at least from the other team ahead of you, between you and the goal, and on that half of the field. Otherwise, someone's offside. So right now, this is onside. We would think of the last defender, right? This is onside. 1, 2, 3 players closer to the goal. Okay? And what happened was teams started scoring, and scoring became more easy, and the numbers went up. But what happened, and they didn't realize this, as much as they thought they solved the problem and the game was more fun because people are scoring now, coaches decided we need to start bringing defenders back. Okay? So I jumped ahead on my own slides, didn't I? Okay, so that would have been offside. Then number 9 player would be offside according to that rule. Okay? But it did. It helped with scoring, and because it helped with scoring, people started bringing players back. Let's skip a little bit. So, now this is hard to see because you got to remember which team's which, okay? So we have the other team in a lighter blue now. But the first player they dropped back was the 5. You had 4, 5, and 6 in the midfield. They dropped the number 5 back. And number 5 went to center back. So it seems weird. Why does it go 1, 2, 5, 3? That's why. They took that central player and brought him or her back. They also took the 8 and the 10 and pulled them back in the midfield. Okay? And this created a new formation. What would you call that formation? Does anyone have a good idea? Remember, we're looking at the navy blue team. You said 3-4-3. Anyone else got any ideas? What do you got, guys? And I heard it, someone threw the goalkeeper in there, and they said 1-3-4-3. I got a 3-2-2-3. You could say a 3-4-3, okay? But this is what they called it. They weren't necessarily calling things by those numbers, and it was a little bit more creative in the names, and they called that a WM. Can you see the W and the M? And you can see Herbert Chapman was using this about 14 years before those numbers became what they were. Okay? So you can see why the numbers already start to get mixed up. But you can see the W and the M made through those numbers. 1, W, and does everyone see that WM? Okay. So eventually, we started moving more and more people back. The offside rule changed again. Once we brought too many people back and everyone said, well, it's harder to score now because they brought more defenders back, they changed the rule to what it is now. Okay? And what happened was the team said, okay, well, we got to bring more people back. So the 4 eventually came back as well. That left just the 6 in the midfield, and that's why in the United States, at least, we call that defensive center made a 6 because they were the last one to go back. We brought the 5 back and then the 4, and that's the last one there. In other countries, South America, the 6 got moved out because remember the 6 was on this side? They moved the 6 to an outside back. So if you have a South American coach, they might say, I want you to play a 6 today, and you go play right here, and they'll ask you what you're doing, okay? Because other countries brought different players back. In Spain, you'll see the numbers go in order, okay? So it'll go 2, 3, 4, 5 across the back. So you might find some people that move it differently. In fact, when I put some information online, I had somebody jump online and say, you've done it wrong. That's not where a 6 goes. We're using what the United States uses in their curriculum, okay? Now the 8 and the 10 were the 2, so we moved everyone back. That 6 is the defensive centerman, the 4 and the 5 got moved to the back. It's the 8 and the 10 that are in the midfield now. That's why a 7's way out on the right, why an 11's way out on the left, and why a 9, not the highest number of all the numbers we've given, is the highest one up the field, because they were that central player that's left there. So it just makes more sense. Who's a little bit safer than the other? Well, 8's one of the first people we moved back because we went numerically, moved the 8 back. 10 is the most attacking because they were technically the last one that we moved back. Does that make sense? You guys got a good idea what those numbers are? Okay. So we're going to talk a little bit about the roles of these positions. And I'm going to have you view 2s and 3s as very similar. Okay, obviously one's on the right, one's on the left. 4s and 5s, we're going to lump them together as well. Okay, a 6, 8, and a 10, we're going to talk about the midfield and how they connect. Let's do this first. Before I move on, we're going to start with our goalkeeper. I have a list on the next page that talks about the roles of a goalkeeper. What are the main things they got to do? You guys got to hit 4 or 5 things for me, okay? When a hand goes up, that's what I'm going to call on. Give me one role of a goalkeeper. Don't give me all.
They block shots.
They block shots. They stop shots. Shot stopper. Good. What else? What? Distribution. When they get the ball, they have to distribute, right? We're going to punt or throw or roll or bowl. Communication. Communication's so important, okay? Do you guys sense this, where I told you it was going to go when we started asking questions? Don't let it go too far, okay? You got another one? What?
When the ball's on the other side of the field.
So you're staying connected with your movement. Good. What else?
Provide an extra drop option.
So we're in possession too, right? So back in the day, goalkeepers were goalkeepers, defenders were defenders now. And this is another reason why we use numbers. So what she's saying is that that's an option for support, okay? That means in possession, we're concerned about what a goalkeeper's doing, okay? So that's a great one. That one's really important. If I call you a defender, you want to defend. If I call you a 2 or a 3, you know you have different roles, okay? You doing okay? There's your chair broken. Shot stopping. Organization of teammates is that conversation. Relieve pressure. And we can use that as a way to draw opponents out too. So you guys put more than I got there. That's good. Shot stopper, yeah. And they're the first attacker. When they got the ball, they should be considered as the first attacker. Okay? The modern goalkeeper now is very confident with their feet. And this changed over the years because I used to be able to play the ball back to my goalkeeper and they could pick it up. So if Chad was in the goal, I could play it to him and he would pick it up. That was normal. And instead of having a certain amount of time with the ball, goalkeepers had a certain amount of steps. Once I received the ball, I could take 4 steps. But there was really no time. I could hold on to it, and then a referee would go, hey, I need you to get it moving. And then you would think about whether or not you really wanted to, and then they'd go, hey, let's go, and then you would get it moving. And Chad could roll it to me, and then I was under pressure, and we're winning 1-0, and I'm under pressure, and I'd just give it back to him, and he'd pick it up again. And then he would roll it out to the left back, and that person would get it, hold it for a second, give it back to Chad, he'd pick it up again. And that's what happened in the 1990 World Cup in particular. It had gotten so far from the way it should be that people were wasting time. As soon as they were winning, especially late in the game, they would waste time by doing that. So they changed the rule and they said you can no longer play it back to your goalkeeper intentionally with your foot. If you want to head it back to your goalkeeper, use your chest, use the thigh. If you do it inadvertently, I'm trying to play a ball over there like that, but I mishit it and it goes to Chad, or it hits me and it goes, fine, you can pick that up. But you can't play it back intentionally with your feet. But I need goalkeepers to relieve the pressure we're under. So now I have to pass it back to them sometimes, but they're not allowed to pick it up. So since 1992, goalkeepers have changed significantly in their skills and abilities and attributes. It's not uncommon for professional goalkeepers now to get a lot of touches outside the box. Manuel Neuer of Germany in the 2014 World Cup, before he got to the final, had touched the ball 68 times outside the box. Okay? This is what his heat map looked like in a typical game. So you can see how frequently he's taking touches outside the box. This is where he got most of his touches. Yellow's a little more. In the blue and the green, at some extent, the blue is where he got at least any kind of touch. I can show you highlights of him coming out here and heading a ball away that had been knocked in behind. Came that far off his line to head a ball away. Okay? So goalkeepers now have to be much more technically sound and very good with their feet. I will often say that the goalkeepers can be the most technical players by the time they get older, because if you've ever seen goalkeeper training, these are players that have to hit the same ball over and over. If I want to work on a certain type of save, I need someone who can serve a certain type of shot over and over and over again. So goalkeepers in training are now doing that over and over and over. Okay? Does anyone know what's special about this guy? What about him? What's unique about him? What do you got?
Doesn't he have like a world record for the longest time?
Yes, he can strike a ball further than pretty much any human, at least, that's been tested. I've seen him drive a ball that traveled over 90 yards before someone received it on the other side. Okay? He can hit a ball pretty far. So, if you're a goalkeeper is taking a goal kick at your age, we may not be, and you can't be offside on a goal kick. So Man City will stretch an opposing team out significantly by putting someone deep in the other half of the field, because you have to mark him because he can hit a ball that far. And then it stretches the team out, which gives them space to build out if they want. So they can go short or long, but they can do it because they have someone that can hit a ball 70, 80, 90 yards. it wouldn't make sense for our teams in the room right now to put someone 60 yards away from our goalkeeper because we can't hit a ball that far. Okay? All right, center defenders, 4s and 5s. I need to hear, what are the I need you to fill that list for me before I go there. What do we got? Center defenders. Not you again. Yeah, let's go. I'll go with you one more time.
I just forgot because you didn't.
Think about it. What else? Center defenders. Oh, you got them now?
Like, you can be like a reset.
Hey, guys, I want you to listen up back there, okay?
You can be like a reset option. So, like.
Yeah, so we're trying to go one way, and we're going to switch the point of attack and go the other. Got it? What else? Yeah, go.
Clearing the ball.
You can clear the ball sometimes. Sometimes there's no nonsense, right? I think a lot of times we feel like just clearing a ball is called bad soccer, but sometimes the situation says just clear it. Sometimes you have to do that. Okay? What?
Give more depth towards our own goal and continue to give an option back if we're under pressure.
That option again and depth, yeah. When I give that option, I need to give depth. I talked to Morgan and Peyton a lot about that as our center backs. When we want to switch a ball from one side to the other, I don't want to play a square ball. So that depth is really important. What? Oh my goodness, yes. So they're kind of, oh good. They're kind of in charge of where our line of defense is. Our line of defense is a line drawn from one side of the field to the other through our last defender. If that last defender moves up the field, so does our line of defense. If that last defender drops off, so does our line of defense. Okay? So what Morgan's saying is that when we go forward, I need everyone to go forward. And as they go forward, I don't want to have gaps and people in front of others where opposing players can run between us. So I tell our center backs, act like you've got giant arms, and I want you to wrap your arms around the back four and bring them with you when you go. Okay? Anything else? All right. Super organized. Zabby Dahlkemper from the U.S. women's team, highly organized and early. You will often hear me tell my players, I want you to get organized, then rest. Get your shape, then rest. The ball goes out for a goal kick. The other team's going to go get it. They got to get the ball. And while they're getting the ball, they got to go set it up. And we tend to catch our breath. And then we walk back and we turn off for a second. We switch off for a second. We walk away. And then we start to get ready and we see the goalkeeper set the ball down. And then we're like, all right, I got to pay attention. Who should I be dealing with? And then we start moving. And at that point, it's too late. So you're going to get your shape early and rest. And that should happen during the run of play too. If my shape is perfect and the other team passes the ball to someone else, I have to change my shape. So when that ball is moved, I have to change my shape. So it falls apart. How quickly can you get organized? Looking over your shoulder. I guarantee you, none of you do this enough. I have seen stats that will say a professional player would look over their shoulder 800 times in a game. I have a feeling that you will consciously take a look and assess the things around you about 10 or 12 times in a game. You guys will do it when there's a throw. There's a throw. And who am I supposed to mark? What am I supposed to do? And we do it there. Throughout the run of play, we tend to, as young players, when the ball's there, we look that way. When the ball goes there, we look that way. When it goes that way, we look up. When it comes at us, we look a little closer. I need you to look over your shoulder. When the ball's on that side of the field, I need you to know what's happening over here. 800 times. It's maybe not fair. Maybe you guys do it 30, 40 times. I need you to add about 700 times, okay? 750 times to your game. Sometimes I'll pair these players with pace. A lot of times opponents will put very quick players up top. So if I have two center backs, at least one of them is pretty quick, okay? How are we going to set that line of defense? That's what Morgan was saying. Wrap your arms around, take them up the field. Provide cover for teammates. When an outside back goes to press, a center back will cover, okay? And this is a really important one. When another team's about to cross a ball and one of my outside backs goes to press, my job as a center defender is to try to make sure that ball doesn't go past the goal. So I defend the near post and prevent a ball from going across the face of the goal, okay? What about, let me see who my next one is. 2s and 3s. Outside backs. What do you got? No outside backs in the room? What do you got? Let me say, I'm sorry, say that one again. All right, you take a lot of throw-ins, so they can be around, very important on set pieces at times. What?
To stretch out our shape.
How, width-wise or depth?
Lengthwise.
Probably both, really, right? Good. All right, you had your hand up. What do you got? Oh, he grabbed your arm and pulled it up. So you don't know what defenders do? Girls are running away with it today. All right, what else? Any of you guys? What do outside backs have to do? We have things to do when we're in possession and things to do when we're out of possession. That should help. Don't forget, we have some things we have to do when we're in possession. What else? What?
They can give cover to 11 and 7s.
Right, they provide cover. In particular, Lulu said for our wings, our 11s and 7s, when they're pressing, you're often the one to give cover. What else?
When the goalkeeper has the ball, you get wide.
So when a goalkeeper has the ball and we want to distribute, we're going to make the field big. We're going to make it wide. What? Overlapping runs. Thank you. That's so important. That's why I gave you the hint. I'm talking about out of possession and in possession. And those overlapping runs are really important. Did I see a hand over there? I need to go over here. Let's go. Playing the ball up the line, right? You're going to play the ball in the width. We created width, and now we're going to use that space that we created. I like that. That's good. What? Last one.
When you're shifting over, make sure you're in the middle of the field.
Oh, so it's an awareness of where you are. When the ball's on the right side, the ball's on the right line, where should the left defender probably be? Right, in the center pretty much, right? What do you got? I said one more, but you had your hand up. Same one. Same one. All right, let's see. Oh, man. Oh, I thought I moved too far. All right. They're there to support attacks and progression, okay? Overlapping runs. They serve the ball from the flanks a lot of times. I've seen professional games. One of my favorite games I saw at the end of last year, the team I was watching won 2-0, and it was their outside backs, their right and their left back, that scored each of the 2 goals that day. Outside backs are being asked to do a lot more work. That increased fitness, and they're covering more ground. Professional players on the women's side are running about 6 miles a game, the players that are running the most. On the guys' side, you can get to 8 miles easily. And a lot of times, those players that used to be called defenders, but now are called 2s and 3s or 4s and 5s even, now have different roles. You have in-possession roles and out-of-possession roles, okay? And because of the in-possession roles and the hard work it is to defending when you're out of possession, there's a lot more work to do, okay? They're covering a lot more ground. That lateral compactness is side to side. That's what you were saying. When the ball's on the right side, I want that left defender in the center. When the ball's on the left side, I want that right defender in the center. So we're compact and staying connected, okay? And then you have to defend. The flanks is the width. That's the outside sides, the side channels of the field, okay? What about our defensive center mids? Defensive center mids, 6s. Let me start with the guys. Give me something 6s do. What do you got?
Switching it.
Switching the point of attack, right? Yeah, ball's on the right. We're going to switch it. What? Right, and so we're switching it, right? And when we do that, we're distributing out to the players in the width or players centrally too, right? What?
Covering for defenders.
Covering for defenders. So sometimes a 6, if you actually watch, even the Columbus Crew will do this a lot of times. I've seen them in the past couple of years playing different formations. It's very quick because they have outside backs they want to get involved. Sometimes both their outside backs will progress. And that 6, it's really strange. I've seen some professional teams, the second they win possession, that 6's first thought is to drop backward, actually, because they're falling into the back, depending on the situation. Okay? What else? You got, those are good ones. What? What? Yeah, they're communicating too. They're a little bit closer to some of the players. Okay? Let's see how you guys did. This is one of the toughest things that a 6 can do, is protecting the back four. We can do it in the ways by dropping back and marking players and that kind of thing. But one of the toughest things that a really good 6 can do is prevent a ball from getting into that line. So if I have a striker behind me and an opponent that has the ball right there, they'll often sometimes press that player in a way that prevents them from finding that striker. Maybe this is Sergio Aguero. Maybe it's a dangerous forward. And their job a lot of times is to make sure the ball never goes to that player. If I press in a certain way and they give it to a less dangerous opponent, that's good for us. But that's really difficult to do, to be aware of where you're supposed to be, follow the ball, but also aware of what's happening behind you. So for me to be aware of what's happening behind me, what do I have to do? Look over your shoulder. Good, good. Okay? Like I said, sometimes they'll drop right in the back line. That kind of old school idea is that was a ball winner. When a ball has been punted, they would win the ball. Okay? In that very direct type of game, you're often winning the ball and heading the ball. It's a very physical role. What's the second ball? If I say they're going to pick up the second ball, what's the second ball? Nothing. What? Reagan?
Like if the ball gets punted to the 2 or 3,
Yep.
it's the second pass after that.
Yeah. So when a ball is punted or a 50-50 ball is played and someone has to go win a challenge, they don't often take a ball that's been punted 40 yards and just control it, or 50 yards and just control it. I have a ball that I win, and then that second ball, the one that falls in that area, is one that we got to take care of. Okay? 8s. What's an 8? Talk to me about an 8. Anybody? Anybody with their... Oh, hey.
Okay, is it like a box to box player?
Yeah, so 8. So AJ said An 8 can be called sometimes a box-to-box player. What's that mean? Anybody know? Can you guess? Was that a hand up? You got so excited and then you put it back down. Did you have an itch on your nose or did you want to answer it? What's box-to-box mean?
They go everywhere.
Yeah, they're going from one box to the other, right? The penalty box that we're attacking to the one that we're defending, okay? Box to box. What else? I saw some guys get excited. What do you got, Sam?
You have to score the 6 and switch one of the 10.
You're going to support that 6, right? So a lot of times you guys will interchange positions, and I want players that'll do that. And what'd you say? What was part of it?
Switch the point of
Switch to the point of attack too, right? Just like that 6 might, an 8 will as well, okay? Some of you as 8s will play very centrally and go a little further back and forth. Some of you will play a little more side to side than others. Let's see how you guys did here. Does anybody know who that is? Yeah. Box to box, okay? Now, like I said, they can cover 8 miles a game sometimes. I've seen players cover some crazy numbers. I've seen players get over 10 miles a game in running, okay? And a lot of times those kind of players can do that sometimes too. Xavi, who played for Barcelona in the past, would often get the ball and play it onto someone else around 100 times, 90 to 105 times, okay? To give you an idea, Barcelona would pass a ball 800 times in a game, sometimes a little less, oftentimes a little more. Their opponents would have about 150 to 200 passes sometimes in a game, okay? So the way they play, Xavi would receive the ball and play the way they face, a lot of 1 and 2 touch and simple. And he actually had a game one time that he was at 96 for 96. He got the ball 96 times, and he successfully found a teammate 96 times. Okay? It's very interesting because a lot of people will say it's a different type of play. He played a lot of things backward. He played a lot of things very short. And someone should probably get credit for a different ball. If I look up and I have a forward making a run, and I can break the line of defense on the other team, and I can play the ball through them and put someone through the goal, I should probably get more credit for a pass than someone who just played it 5 yards backward. So what you're going to start to see in the next couple World Cups, men and women, is instead of talking about the number of passes that players are putting in a game, you're going to start to hear commentators talk about the number of lines that are broken. So if I look up and I play the ball, that you draw a line between the midfielders on another team, and I play a ball that breaks through that line, that's a broken line. If I play a ball that breaks through the midfield line and 2 forwards, I broke 2 lines with 1 pass. If I take the ball, my goalkeeper, they have their forward line, and their forwards are pressing. My goalkeeper rolls the ball out to a 6, and they turn and go. We broke their forward line. You're going to start to hear people talk about how many lines were broken because that is a more assertive, aggressive, moving forward, trying to go toward the goal, and should probably be viewed differently than someone who just plays it backwards. Now, there's a reason why they're doing that. Super successful in how they played, but you're going to start to see people talk about passes in a different way the next few years, okay? Switching the point of attack. Really good. 10s.
Connecting with the 9s.
Connecting with a 9. Yeah, I actually know a lot of my favorite 10s will actually overlap 9s and get ahead of them. So there's a lot of combination play. A lot of times when I play the ball into a 9, which way are they facing a lot of times? They're facing back with their back to goal. So someone that's under pressure with their back to goal needs someone to give it to. I will often tell my 10, your job is to be within 10 yards of our 9 whenever we play into her feet. You have to be there to support because oftentimes they're going to have to play back the way they face. What about other 10s? 10s. Any attacking center mids? We have any attacking center mids on this team? Come on, 10s. What do you got? All right, anyone else? 10s are famously known as very creative players. A lot of the most creative, a lot of times it's the top player on teams. You would hear Pelé and Maradona and players like that wore the number 10. Okay? A modern 10, though, they call these kind of creative players. They're playmakers. Very quick to get into the front line. I was saying some of my favorite 10s look like forwards. The second we win possession, some teams will play within a 4-3-3. And the second they're in possession, they'll call it a 4-2-4 because one of those midfielders will jump up into that attacking, into the front line very quickly, okay? Providing support for our forwards, that's what you were saying over there. That killer ball, that's the ball that breaks lines. That's the ball that puts someone straight through the goal, okay? That's not a backward, sideways ball. 10s will play that ball that puts someone straight through the goal. But don't forget, like you said, they have defensive responsibilities, okay? Let's go out wide, 7s and 11s. Wings. Who plays out on the outside? You're the only, is everyone telling you the things to say? Let's hear this. Don't forget yours, okay? What do you got? Oh, you forgot it already?
Yeah, I forgot.
All right, let's hear it.
So this also applies.
Hey guys, hold up. What?
This also applies to the 2 and the 3. When the opposing
Hey, fellas, I can't hear what she's saying. What?
So when the opposing team has a throw on one of the sides, whether it's the right or the left, it's that 7 or 11's job. It also applies to the 2 or the 3 to help overload that space so it makes them hard to connect.
Absolutely. I love these out of possession things. Good. Well, you got one? All right. What is you guys? The service, right? The way they serve a ball. And sometimes it's are you talking about a flighted ball or a ball on the ground or just any ball that's, I love it. Good. What else? More 7s and 11s? What? Width. They create width. A lot of times they're the players that create width. What? Hold on. Olivia. Getting to the goal line and playing it back. Is that what you were going to say? She stole it. You thought of it. You got another one? All right. Does anybody know, fellas, as she's talking about it, what are half spaces? Nobody? All right. So as they were talking about half spaces, you have wide spaces in the flanks, and you have a central space. But there are now a couple other lanes that are created that coaches will call half spaces, halfway between being wide and being central. So we have a wide space, a half space, then the center, another half space, and then the wide space. So what they're saying is when the ball's on the other side of the field, especially because we're younger and we can't hit a ball 60, 70 yards, when the ball's on that side, they'll come into the half space so they can create a little bit of space to play through, but also be there to support and be closer to players that need it. Okay? Create width and attack. They should have 1v1 skills, service from the flanks. These are players that you guys said did a great job of that, combined with 2s and 3s and center mids and 9s. These are very mobile players. These, before defenders were given so much responsibility to go forward, they were often the players that were running the most, okay? They can be very skillful. Sometimes teams are playing with inverted wingers that are coming in more central. Okay, why would wingers now, based on everything else we talked about, be charged with coming more central than they used to? Why would wingers be asked to come central? What? Because outside backs are making runs in the width. Brilliant. Good. Okay. So, last one. Strikers. Niners. What do you got? So you're making runs to get on the end of those through balls, those killer balls that are put through. I like that. What? So I love this, okay? So you're talking about the runs being made up top to receive, and you're talking about diagonal runs. I want you guys to understand when I talk about my shoulder line and how it is compared to the way I'm moving. The goal line across the top of the field goes across like this. And if my shoulder line is parallel, going in the same way as those lines, that's not affected. That means the players on the right stay on the right, the players on the left stay on the left, central players stay in the center. So what you're saying when you say diagonal runs is I'm running in ways that my shoulder line is not parallel to the goal line. I'm going to run from one area to another. I'm going to go from a wide space to a half space, from a half space to a central space. I might go from one wide space to the other wide space. And when I do that, if I am running straight forward, I'm the right forward, right? If I'm going straight forward, who's likely dealing with me from the other team? What position? Their left defender, right? So if I run at an angle, does that defender follow me all the way across the field, or do they keep their shape? Some people say keep their shape. Some people will say I need to follow them to a point. But when you move in a way that your shoulder line is not parallel to the goal line, that makes defenders have to make decisions. Do I stay with this run or do I pass that person on? And when I pass that person on is important. Because if I think I've passed that player on, but the player who's supposed to pick him or her up hasn't picked him or her up yet, that's where forwards that are very successful. We could talk about playing between the lines. You have a defensive line and a midfield line, and they'll play in that space between. But I also want you to view lines as the right and the center and the left and play in between those as well. And that's if you're running without your shoulders parallel to the goal line. Okay? Don't forget that one, okay? What else? Any other nines? Any other nines? What do you got? What do you got? Scoring. Thank you. That's important. And I want everybody to feel that's important for them, but a lot of forwards feel like that's their job. I will tell you, my most successful attacking players are not concerned about whether or not they're scoring, but they're concerned about whether or not we're scoring. And I will tell players, if you want to play up top for me in an attacking role, I simply need to feel like we could score every time you get the ball, whether or not you're scoring. I have players that started for us up top that rarely scored goals. But when they were on the field, we scored goals. Okay, they created opportunities for us. So that's a really good one. Let's see how well you guys did. All right, I've always viewed a couple different types of forwards. Okay, there's that big, tall, strong, physical battles. A person that likes to play with their back to goal, and they've always got a defender on their back. They're battling with players and drawing fouls. And sometimes I have forwards that are that technical, skillful, difficult player to follow. They're always running in different places. They're coming in and out of spaces. They're going into open areas between midfielders and defenders. Midfielders and defenders. Sometimes they're going into an offside position. Sometimes they're on the right. Sometimes they're on the left. I played with a guy in college that simply said every single time the ball went out, goal kick, throw in, any kind of set piece, he would just switch the side of the field he was on. Sometimes there might be a throw in right in front of him. He would go the other side of the field. Sometimes he was on the other side of the field and he would come to the side the throw in was on. He just left and moved to the other side every single time. And when he left that space, you might think of the throw in there going away. He would leave, take somebody with him, and create space for someone else to run into. Okay? So I want you to think about that. Just difficult to track, sometimes very, very technical. Some people score because they take 100 shots and sooner or later one's going to go in. Some people score because they take 2 or 3 shots a game, but they finish those opportunities. Okay? Run where your shoulders are not parallel to the goal line. They combine like you guys were talking about with the players in behind them. Okay? A lot of times their job is the role of a first defender when they're out of possession. It is not common for me to go take a ball off a defender's foot. If Kenzie has the ball and I go close, especially when that space is large, when I get halfway there, she's going to play it one way or the other. But if I run straight at her like that and she could go one way or the other, and my team doesn't know which way she's going, it makes it difficult. But if I run at her like this, she's not going this way, she is going that way. And while I close her down, my entire team behind me is going to get into shape and get into position for us. So my job is to make play predictable. I'm not likely going to win it. She will get rid of the ball before I get there. Some people will say, the press isn't working because I'm doing exactly what you said and I never win the ball. You're not going to. But if we win the ball as a team 15 yards behind you, the press has worked. Okay? So keep that kind of stuff in mind. You guys did a great job of filling those out before we even got to them. Okay? Not bad actually. What are the questions that you guys have?
Or not to run, and the defenders can either go with them or let another person take them. Which one would be more effective for us?
You're talking about the team out of possession that's defending?
Yeah, like depending
Okay.
on the situation.
So this is a really good question, and this is one of the toughest things players get from me is I don't answer that question the way you want me to. Okay? She said an opposing forward runs from the wide space into the center space and goes across and leaves the area. The left defender was marking them, and they're going into a space that a center defender might be. And she said, what is better? Should you follow that player, or should you pass them on to someone else? Okay? I can't tell you that answer because sometimes you need to follow them. Okay? Imagine if the other team, let's say one of our outside backs made a run forward, right? And one of our center defenders went to press and they lost possession. Okay? As that player goes into the center and the gap between my center defender and that person's so big that when they get halfway there, they're going to play to a teammate, I need that person to be able to sit in front of them, and I'm going to have to follow that player and try to track that player down. Okay? When it's only one player and the other team's on the other side of the field, I'm not going to leave and create space for someone to make a run into. I'm just going to look over and go, Lulu, you got her, will you pick her up? Okay? So for me, if you guys remember, we were talking about defending, how important it is to keep our shape and get our shape early and then rest. Okay? Get our shape and then rest. Your shape is going to be compromised all the time. Every pass the other team makes, you could have perfect defensive shape. As soon as the other team passes the ball, it's not perfect anymore. So the question is, how quickly can I fix it? And sometimes I fix that with a teammate, picking up someone that's moving, and sometimes I fix it on my own because I follow someone. So instead of having conversations where I'm saying, drop, slide, press, move, I want you guys to have conversations. I'm just going to use Lulu, she's right here in front of me. I want you to have conversations where Lulu and I are coming out and she'll go, hey, do you want me to mark that player? And I'll go, yeah, just keep an eye on her for a second. Don't worry about her too much. But if they switch the ball, she's yours, right? And then they slow the other side and I go, yeah, go, press. Okay? You should be having a constant conversation with your teammates so that you can get ready early, okay, and then rest. You can get your shape early and then rest. So you can't answer that question by saying you either follow them or pass them on because every situation will be different. Okay? That was a great question. What else? No questions. You guys knew it all. You guys had no questions at any point. Any questions? The guys got it all figured. Oh, wait, you do have one question. What's a half space? Jiminy Christmas. All right, you ready? This was a slide from an earlier presentation today, and the question was, what is a half space? This is the wide space. You guys would agree that's the center and a wide space. These are half spaces, okay? I need our players to have a certain amount of width, but also be close enough to combine with each other. Like I said, it's not common to have a 12-year-old that can hit a 60-yard ball and switch the point of attack in one pass. Sometimes I need someone closer to me, but the closer we get to each other, the more compact it gets, and compactness is a defensive principle. I need the space to be huge. So, to give you an idea, I want you to watch the Polaris players, the players in sky blue, okay? This is, I don't know, I gave them a logo. It's a sad emoji. It's just this crying emoji face, okay? So, watch as the ball moves. This is what I told my forwards on my now U14s, what I want them to do. When the ball's on this far right side, and this is how we're going to kind of move, okay? Goes to the left, I want her to come into the half space. When it's in the center, we're in the wide spaces. See how she came into the half space? But when it's way on that side, I need you to be in a position where you're kind of in the center or half spaces, and you could go one way or the other to get behind somebody, depending on what they do, okay? So when the ball's in the center, we're going to be wide. When the ball's heading to one side or the other, we're going to creep into those half spaces. Sometimes people will use, I'll let that go again. Sometimes people will use these half spaces. So let's say we're thinking about it out of possession wise, the other team's building out of the back. The other team's goalkeeper has the ball and they roll it out to a defender and they're going to try to build out of the back. What some people will do is they think, oh, our goal's in the middle, so I'm going to force them wide. If I force them wide, I can force them into the sideline and maybe win the ball back. But what some teams will do is they actually, instead of forcing a team wide, what happens when I win it? When I win the ball, I can only go which directions if I win it right here? Can I go to the right? Okay, I could probably go forward a little bit, but I'm going to go to the left. So what teams are doing now is they're not letting people go wide. Forwards are forcing people back into that half space. Strikers are forcing people that way. So they're forcing them in here so that other teams have to play through the half space. And when other teams have to play through the half space, now when I win it, I've got some options. I can play out wide and get around them. I can play straight forward. I can play to the left. So some teams now, out of possession, are creating scenarios where they win it back in the half space instead of just forcing people wide, because that's what we got used to and winning it back here and limiting our options. Okay? So half spaces can be used for countless ideas in possession and out of possession, and it is something that I hope that you guys will understand. You guys are old enough now. We're not talking about some of the basic things we talked about earlier in the day. We're talking about some bigger concepts, and you should understand what a half space is. Okay? That was a great question. Thank you. What else? Soccer balls, in case you don't. All right. Hey, we do have one. I think I might have two more questions. What do you got? What? Nothing. Great. What was your question? Oh, my goodness. Yes.